So very simple. We start with some training data, which also includes, or a learning set, which includes the validation data. We feed it to an algorithm, we create a model, and then we apply this model on a test set. And if we're satisfied with the results, then we take this model and we put it in production. The most straightforward way of deploying is just to put it behind an API and create a prediction service. If you're using a machine learning model and you just use a script where you then make some type of predictions, if there is people or businesses or decisions being taken on these predictions, then technically your machine learning model is in production and you need to be monitoring it. Even though it's like not formally architected or programmed or checked off by IT, it is being used in the real world, so it is in production. But here for simplification, we just put our model inside of an API, and that process is deploying it. And then when it's really in production, we have the business process. For instance, we might be doing churn prediction, where we send some data to our prediction service about our customers, and we get some model output back, the probability to churn. And this business process would then be the retention process. So we will then later take some retention measurements based on the model output. And these are downstream processes that happen after the prediction is being made. And that is something important to bear in mind, that making predictions is never the endpoint. A machine learning model is always embedded in a business process. So there is more data that we can gather later on. For instance, we can gather some business KPIs, or we can gather information about which retention campaigns are working very well. And at the end, we can also gather some information whether the customer actually ended up churning or not. So these are like the components that are connected inside of our production environment. Of course, we as data scientists, but also executives, model owners, data engineers, ML engineers, we want to get some view, get some observability of how this entire system is doing. So that's why we have a monitoring system. And the first thing that we will have to know is our API actually working? Are we being able to make predictions? And that is infrastructure and application monitoring. But that is all about, are we not running out of memory? Is our hardware being efficiently used? And also inside of the API itself, is our code still working? Don't we have any bugs? And when there's issues here, these tend to fail very loudly. In a sense, there is already monitoring for that. There is already best practices. If our API stops working, we will get notified, or at least the ops team will. So just like a quick reminder of how such a typical application monitoring dashboard looks like your research management, basically, and how many API calls, etc. Inside of our monitoring system, there's typically 4 components, which is the logging of the data, the collecting, and then also the analytics part. That's going to be like the performance estimation, the data drift detection, which is tied to some alerting. If something is going down, we have to be notified, and we'll send some information, some alerts to the users. And then we would also ideally have some dashboard or some reporting where we can look into the issues, explore some data, do some data science, and bring everything together and actually come up with the plausible root cause analysis.